Casey, for having me on the Blaze Summit. And as I told you earlier, I love your topic for women, no longer my burden. And I am a poet, and I do like to use my poetry to express things related to social issues, controversies in this universe, racism. I like to talk about breast cancer, domestic violence. Those are just some of the topics. And I have included some of them in my books, Lifelines and This Is Your Year of Jubilee. I'm currently working on a book entitled Healing America. And I think I'll start there talking about racism. And during the George Floyd summer unrest, the protests, I started writing this book. And I started thinking about the mothers who had lost their sons to, being shot by police. Those that were unarmed. And, the excuse was always, well, I feared for my life. The police would always say, I feared for my life. And I began to think about it, and I said, the problem is not that the Black men are a threat, but it's because of perception. So perception determines reception. So how you perceive someone, even before you encounter them, will determine the actions that you take. And so I kind of focused on the mothers, and I wrote a poem called, I Just Want You to Come Home. And it says, it sort of goes back historically, so it's kind of back and forth. Don't walk in the woods alone, but if you do, go before midnight. Stay out of the headlights, travel light. So if you have to run through the river to lose the scent of the dogs, stay close to the trees to hide. Don't breathe, don't make a sound. Don't look up in their faces, look down. Although you are proud, don't show it because they can't handle it. I just want you to come home. Don't move your hands. Don't make any sudden moves. Don't stop on the dark road where there is no light. Don't resist. Don't fight, even if you are right, because they can't handle it. And some can't see your humanity and your beautiful personality. And I just want you to come home to me. I just want you to come home. And the second one I wrote, and I'm going to read some of this one, because I always felt like if people knew the people they encountered, if they saw them differently, they would treat them differently. And this is a conversation between a mother and a police. And this poem is entitled, Meet My Son. This is my son. He was a premature baby, but he grew, and before we knew it, he was in school, drawing pictures of purple skies and dogs to cover our bare walls with his frameless masterpieces, the colors still vivid in my memory. I keep his artwork in my hope chest, full of moments in his life that made me laugh, cry, and beam with pride. I still have his curly, silky hair from his first haircut, where he tried to act like a big boy in front of his grandfather, a 5-star Marine general who saluted him for his bravery. My son was the head of his class. He loved school, played football, ran track, played in the band, and I could not keep up with all the things he wanted to do. In his world, he was safe. He knew he was loved and accepted. He knew nothing of the world outside of his haven that one day he would face because of his rich brown skin tone. I wish he never has to. He did not know that sometimes wolves waited for him like prey to satiate their thirst for Black blood, and that driving while Black, walking while Black, living while Black, or breathing while Black was a problem for some people. My son enlisted in the Navy, became a SEAL full of medals, but they would not know that he fought to protect the rights of those who would harm him. They would not hear how kindly he spoke and would mistake his proud look as defiance. He is strong but gentle, carried his ailing grandmother like a mother cradling a baby in her arms. I don't mean to brag, but this son of mine is one of a kind. He will leave a mark in this world if he lives long enough. His personality is like a magnet, drawing people to his warm laugh, like bodies gathered around a bonfire in the cold. His concern for others worries me sometimes. Be careful, I tell him, because he will stop to help every stranded car. Never a worry, never a care. If you call him, he's there. Works hard for a living, successful at life, not married yet, but looking for a wife. He's so handsome. But what matters is his beauty within. It shines like his rich ebon skin. He is my boy, our pride and joy. If you know him, you will love him. Everybody does. His smile will melt the snow caps off the mountains. His touch will heal your soul. His velvet voice echoes like a saxophone as he tells corny jokes and never-ending stories. His skilled surgeon hands repairs the faces of women abused. His nonprofit providing shoes for children. He is the ideal citizen, the neighborhood friend, a mentor, a coach. There is no end to the things he can do and who he is. So, officer, please, when you stop him for a simple violation, don't see his Black skin as a threat, a suspect, or any other things you believe. Take a moment, treat him equally. No need to yell, threaten, or call him any names. You don't need to draw your gun. He's legit. He belongs here. He has nothing to hide, no record, no crime, no drugs in his system. He doesn't even smoke, but he does not judge those who do, because his love for people is based on who they are. He sees with the heart and the mind. We taught him to be kind, even when others are not. He will greet you respectfully because that is who he is. Don't fear him. He is not your enemy, but I want you to see him like he sees you, as a human being, a son, a loving dad, a faithful spouse, a man, not a criminal, a thug, or nigger, or any of the things you have heard and maybe laughed about at the station or in the club or at your dinner table. I know you don't know my son, but give him the benefit of the doubt. He is harmless, unlike people who are quick to call the police just because he is present in this world. So, officer, please, I stay on my knees praying that he will not encounter a rogue police ready to judge, convict, and execute my boy for no reason other than the fact that he is Black. All I ask is that you look at his face, look in his eyes, full of compassion, and have mercy on him. Treat him the same way you would treat your son or grandson or another innocent white man that you don't know either. Give him a warning or a ticket if you have to, and let him go his way. Don't take his precious life away, for I want him to come home. His life matters to me. Meet my Black son. You will love him. Everybody does. And so that's just one of many poems that I've written, trying to talk about, racism and how we can have meaningful dialogues, not just push it aside, because that's the only way we're going to get healing in America. And there's a lot more I can say on that topic, but I'd like to talk about another subject that is important to me as well. And that is breast cancer. And I've had some friends who fought breast cancer. Some have won the battle and some did not. But the American Cancer Society states more Black women die from breast cancer than any other cancer. And we know that part of that is due to several factors, one being economic status, different discrimination, systemic racism. But they are working on that, trying to close that gap and that disparity. And one of the things they're doing is the American Cancer Society is doing a cancer prevention study. And what they're doing is try to understand how factors such as housing discrimination contribute to inequities in cancer prevention, behaviors, and cancer risk. So they're working on that. They're also working on cancer facts and figures for African American, Black people, cancer facts and figures for Hispanic and Latinos. And they're also working on healthy equity research in cancer control and prevention. So these are just some of the things that they are doing as far as breast cancer. And it is a burden for Black women. And a lot of times we do neglect ourselves because we are taking care of everybody else. And so we have to get out of that and sort of take care of ourselves and take care of our healthcare needs so that we will not be part of that statistic. And I have written poems, related to breast cancer. And one in particular I wrote for some of my friends who did succumb to breast cancer. And I wrote it for some of them who, once they got the diagnosis, it was like, what do I do now? Where do we go from here? And I wrote this poem, and it's entitled, I Am Still Me. Because I encouraged one of my friends, Janet, I said, what do you want to do? You want to go to college? Whatever it is you want to do, although you have a diagnosis of breast cancer, I want you to still do the things that you want to do. And I said, because you are still the same person. And so I'm going to read this poem entitled, I Am Still Me. These are the breasts where my firstborn nestled and suckled the milk and honey that flowed, nourishing her body and soothing her soul. These are the breasts where the love of my life gently caressed, a symbol of my womanhood, a mark of beauty, a part of me that budded like the petals of a rose. These are the breasts that made me look so elegant in my silk blouse and even in my old t-shirt. I now look at them, these breasts that never reached the age of sagging. I look at my chest where they once were, now gone, removed by the surgeon's knife because of the invasive carcinoma that hardened the softness where my baby used to lay her tender head. A scar is there where they once were. My breasts are gone, but I am still here. And my daughter can still lay her head here when she wants to reveal to me her heart. I am still her mother, still a sister, a daughter, a wife, an aunt, a friend, and a grandmother. My heart still beats strong. Because though cancer took away my breasts, it could not take away my love, my self-worth, my joy, nor my purpose. For I can still give. And I am still me, but stronger, happier, and whole in a special way. My breasts, a symbol of my femininity now gone, but I am still here. And I am still feminine, still beautiful, still sensual, and still lovable because I am still me. And the second poem I wrote in addition to that one is Celebrating You, Celebrating Life. And actually I use that also when talking about my next topic that has been of a great interest and concern, and that's domestic violence against Black women. According to the CDC, domestic violence is one of the leading causes of death for Black women between the ages of 15 and 35. That's pretty significant. That's a big burden that we've always borne. And one of the things Black women, they do not like to report domestic violence or call the police because, we're kind of in this, situation where we're afraid to call police because of what we think the reaction might be. But that should not be our burden. If someone's trying to take your life or beating and abusing you, then that's their burden. That's on them. not on you. And if you have to call the police, then you have to call the police. Because one of the things that I'm writing, I'm working on a book entitled I Want to Live. And I'm going to read the poem that goes with that book, I Want to Live. One of the things that I say to many women who've been abused, and I've been in a bad situation my own self, and I had to come to this decision. And I loved him. I mean, I loved him dearly. And I forgave him every time. But I became very afraid for my life. And I asked myself this question. I said, it's like a revelation, a divine revelation came to me. And it was these words that really woke me up. And it said, you may love him with all your heart, but can you trust him with your life? I'm going to say that again. You may love him with all your heart, but can you trust him with your life? And when I answered that question, I walked away and never looked back. I walked away. And I was reading an article by Bill Al Morris. He was writing about the Colburn place in Indianapolis, Indiana. And one of the topics of his article, he says, violence against Black women is a disturbing and growing epidemic. Black men, why aren't we protecting them? And as I was reading the article, I was reading something, a quote from the Indiana State Representative, Vanessa Summers. And she said, it's exhausting being a woman, but it's really exhausting being a Black woman. And as I read it further, I understood exactly where she was coming from. And I'm going to tell you her final quote at the end, because I think it really hits home. And the statistics show, according to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the NCADV, it said more than 40% of Black women have experienced intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking in their lifetimes. And more than half of Black adult female homicides are related to intimate partner violence. And some of the questions the NCADV said, one of the reasons that it's so high, it says by intentionally denying Black people access to economic opportunities, the ability to build intergenerational wealth, healthcare, education, and a sense of safety from governmental systems, racist policies increase the prevalence of risk factors for domestic violence. And one of the second things they said that is a barrier. It says these systems create numerous barriers for survivors seeking safety. Law enforcement officials often arrest Black survivors, and police, jurors, and judges are less likely to believe Black survivors than white survivors. Racist systems put Black people at a greater risk of experiencing intimate partner violence. And one of the third things, of course, is economics. And also the community. There is a theory in the community. One of them is religion, and I'm not opposed to religion at all. And often we say we take things to God. And I remember growing up in the church, and some of the young ladies were abused. And I remember the older women telling them, stay with your husband, stay with your husband. And as a teenager, I started saying, well, why would God want them to stay with someone who's beating on them all the time? What, doesn't God love them too? And so, you know, often people say, we take it to God and don't let people know what's going on inside your home. That's what the church is for. So the churches also need to be more educated and more proactive and more of a resource in helping women through this situation. So it's not just our burden. The burden also lies on our community. It lies on our churches. It lies on our men. All of us have to be a part of making that better for women everywhere. And so one of the poems I wrote, I have several poems on domestic violence. I even have one for young people, which I may do that one as well, because even teenagers are victims of domestic violence. But this poem is entitled, I Want to Live. I can't breathe, and I'm afraid to walk too hard on the floor and wake you from your sleep to be slapped and kicked and punched for disturbing your rest, even with our baby growing inside my womb. I can't breathe, even though the words I want to say linger on my swollen lips. I dare not even whisper. Silence and violence rule my life. And I can't breathe. I can't scream. I can't dream. Everything I do is wrong. Every word is wrong. Every effort is wrong. I can't breathe. I can't even sing a song. My hands are numb as I sit watching the ticking clock, second by second, sucking the life out of me. I can't breathe because of that grasp of your angry hands around my neck. Hear my pounding heart, suffocating like a river whose tank is empty. My chest ready to burst, racing to the surface, fleeing death because I can't breathe. But I want to live. I want to live. I want to live is the title of my next book, talking about domestic violence. And just for fun, and just in case there are any young people in the room or anyone who has any teenagers, you might want to share this poem with them. It's actually a skit. So you can just imagine, I always had a young teenager to be the person that I was talking to. And this poem is entitled Sweet 16. Sweet 16, what's that on your pretty face? Underneath those lashes I see. A bruise that your makeup can't cover up. Did your boyfriend beat you up? Did he hit you and make you cry? Then said that you were the reason why he was mad and things aren't right. You are the cause for the fight. If you loved him, then you stay. He hits you, but he loves you anyway? Well, let me tell you, girl, it ain't true. If he really, really loved you, he would treat you like a queen, not tear down your self-esteem, nor destroy your free voice, taking away your rights, your choice, where to go, who to see. He would freely let you be you. He would not inflict hurt or pain and call you all those obscene names. Listen to what I'm telling you, girl. There is true love in this world. Love is kind and love is real. Love is more than a passing thrill. Love lifts up and love makes strong. A bruise has to stop, but love goes on. So don't let anyone take your life away. You have a future and it starts today. So that's for my young people, because young girls think it's kind of cute that the boys are acting jealous, and all of that is abuse. Trying to tell them who to see, where to go, etc. So those are also, things to think about as well. So domestic violence and breast cancer are both part of my projects that are dear to my heart. I've actually done programs at Emory University on human trafficking. And I was very honored that the assistant DA for DeKalb County came, and also the Internet Crimes Against Children. They also came and they, informed the community about, human trafficking and how you can recognize it and how you can help, because there's so many young Black girls that are abducted all the time. And so just thinking more on this topic about no longer my burden. And I said I wanted to read a quote from the representative. She said, I love this so much. She said, Black women, she said, it goes through so much, Summer said. I think a lot of it is that we need more self-care and self-love. And then we wouldn't go through these things any longer. And I said, she is so right, because we want to be everything for everybody. We take up the slack. 70% of households are headed by Black women. And so we sacrifice so much and leave ourselves with so little. And I've written these last 2 poems I'm going to read. And one of them is an encouragement to Black women everywhere. All of these things are not just our burden. It's everybody's burden. It's everybody's concern. And we don't have to bear everything alone. We don't have to neglect our health care. Take your burdens and turn them into missions, turn them into quests, turn them into activism, so we can help one another. Don't put off your medical care so your grandson can get some expensive sneakers or something. We don't have to be the Jesus on the cross, bearing everybody's burdens, neglecting ourselves or neglecting our lives, because we are so valuable and we have contributed so much to this world. Historically and now, we have contributed so much. It's immeasurable. I heard a representative say one day, one of the congressmen, senators said, well, Black women, they're only 6% of the population. Like as if in America, like as if that didn't matter. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, and why did he find that necessary to say? I said, that's irrelevant. We might be 6% of the population. It's not about quantity, but it's about the quality that we bring. It's the quality. And I'm going to do my signature poem. I think Casey has heard this one. And this one is called Living and Loving. I got to put on my shades to do this one because it's a little hip hop in it. Going to be a little bit cool or whatever, but we're going to take a mental vacation. And that's what we need to do sometimes. Take a mental vacation sometimes and take care of our mental health as well. Take care of our mental health. Don't feel guilty about relaxing. Don't feel guilty about saying no. Don't feel guilty about none of that. Take all those burdens off your back. And I want you to start living and loving yourself. And this poem says, today I decided to spend more time living and loving myself, like the baboon whose bottom is shining like a crimson moon, exposing her natural beauty. It doesn't matter who laughs or thinks otherwise. It is her glorious bottom, and she's not ashamed. I decided not to live in shame of my voluptuous body, nor the moles that embellish my pink and tan skin. I am going to strut like a flamboyant peacock just because I am alive. Today I decided to leave the debates for the debate team because I want to talk about love and life. It makes me so high. I want to kiss the sky. I want to talk about the galaxies and explore my history and roots that lead me back to Africa before slavery. I want no bashing, no boasting, just celebration and toasting my dear family and friends, my lovable children, and the spectacular earth and sky. I want to learn the songs of the birds and sing a melody to God as they do. Hallelujah. I want to fly and soar. I want more out of life. There is no room in my gray matter for confusion and strife. Well, I want to sing and dance and prance all over the place. I want to rise, shine, and be filled with grace. I want to be the honeybee that sucks the sweet nectar of life. Let me lie down in green pastures, not wallow in the muds of past failure or despair. Let the rains of heaven wash away my pain and restore my soul. Let me laugh like the hyena. Let my free spirit run with the wild horses that drink from the rivers of living water. Let me sit under the tree with the wise poets and chess masters unraveling the mystical game of life. And then let me sit down at the table of humanity, together with people of every age, race, gender, and nation, sharing the bread of peace, love, and harmony. Let me meditate on this. I want my mind to be uncluttered, unencumbered, unbound, unchained, free from the stresses and messes that create static, which interferes with the frequencies of my joy. So don't disturb me with foolishness, pettiness, negativity, or crass, meaningless words to interrupt my flow or waste my time. Because I only have time for living and loving. And if you got time for that, then I got time for you. And that's living and loving. That's my signature point. And I'm going to close out this. Oh, let me take these off so I can see. I'm sorry. Can't see with those. It'd be cool with them, but I can't see. So I hope every woman, every Black woman in their space and in their time, remember that they are important. Their lives are important. Their self-care and self-love is vital. And so all of you, I'm going to celebrate you with this closing poem called Celebrating You, Celebrating Life. And let me see if I can bring the poster over so you can see it. Yeah, there we go. I hope you can see that. Okay, I'll stand up and do this final one. So just remember, we are not burdens, and we're not carrying any more burdens because we're gonna live for us. Celebrating you, celebrating life. Put it down. Now come back to the screen. You made it. You came out. You survived. You can shout. You can live and give and have your being. You have a new way of seeing yourself, whole and strong, tried and true. You are even more beautiful. You can think and grow and love. You are more than you ever dreamed of becoming. You are a star. You are a light. You have faced the darkest night, but hope and courage carried you when you did not see your way through. Through the tunnel to the light, you are going to be all right. Celebrating you, celebrating life. Thank you.